This week in the podcast for New All Ages Comics for the week of November 8, 2017. It's the Spectral and Turtle crossover you thought you would never see. The 9,000-pound gorilla comes out with their 12th book in the series. One of the best graphic novels of the year so far, Red's Planet. It's out with their sequel. We have 2 go-to comics and 1 comic book that teenagers will go ape over.
Hey, and welcome to Daddy Mojo. It's the podcast where we'll talk about parenting, all-age comic books, toys, and more. Now, here's your host, Trey Burley.
Hey there, it's Trey with Daddy Mojo. Thanks for checking out the podcast this week for New All Ages Comics. It is the first week after Halloween, the first full week after Halloween. And usually, it's happened to the past 3 years. This week is a little light when it comes to all-age comic books. I think it's because a lot of the publishers just got jacked up. They ate too much candy, is what it is, and they put out so many issues. They front-loaded October. So the latter part of October and the early part of November, it's a little bit skint. Next week, though, they start the Thanksgiving push and the Christmas push, and it's going to be great ongoing monthly titles from here out. Having said that, there are still some great titles out this week, including we have 2 of our go-to titles out every single issue of both of these comics you can pick up and love any age. First one is Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Issue number 87. It's out this week from DC Comics. This is not the team-up Scooby-Doo. This is Scooby-Doo and his normal misadventures, mysteries, and things like that. Conservationists and lumberjacks, they're squaring off over the fate of a forest, but they are both on the losing end because a very large redwood-looking Groot monster is going to squash them both. If you go to any elementary school library, you will see issues of this comic book in there for good reason. It's great. And it's really fabulous. Ages 5 and up will love this. They can't read it on their own, but they can look at the art and laugh and love it. Even our 8-year-old still likes to read this comic book, and I do too. It's great, and bonus points, it's only $2.99, which is really rare, but it's that sought-after price point if you're looking at comics that are going to be great for kids because they're going to bend the ages and muck them up and bend them and not use their bags and boredom. So this is it. And when I say bored them, I don't mean boredom, because that's the last thing they'll have when they look at this. It's great. It's Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Issue 87 out this week. The other go-to comic we have this week is SpongeBob Comics. What can you say about this comic book? I feel like I'm roasting it. I'm not. Issue number 74 is out this week from SpongeBob Comics from United Plankton Pictures. Great. I have friends, parent friends, who don't let their kids of a certain age see SpongeBob Comics, and I get that. The comic book does not have that same energy or sass that parents don't like. So forge ahead, parents, if you're hesitant about SpongeBob. This comic book will change your mind and let your kid enjoy the series that their friends are watching, and maybe they could just be the cool kid who's reading about SpongeBob instead of having to watch him. What? You watch SpongeBob? I read him. I'm much cooler. Great comic book, it really is. Who is it great for? Ages 6 and up will be able to read it independently. Even ages 5 and up can look at the art and laugh along. 6 and up, go get it. SpongeBob Comics, issue 74. It is out this week. And while I'm here, if you'd be so kind as to leave a rating for the podcast from whatever service brought you here, that would be super. Maybe share it with a friend, because it's a nice thing to do. And some parents, I was this way for many years. Some parents don't know what to get their kid. They want their kid to read, but kids may not want to read the stuff that they see in school. So what we try and do here in this podcast, we break down all of the new weekly comic books, as well as the new graphic novels or books that kids will want to read. It is Wimpy Kid, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Book 12. It's out this week. Book 12 is called The Getaway. There's not going to be much of a plot shift in this one. So this is more for kids to read, and kids will flock to this book. If your only introduction to Wimpy Kid is the movie that came out this summer, or any of the movies for that matter, the books are much better. And it's such a cliche to say that. The book, you should have read the book. And wow, you sure should have read the book because, whew, I can still smell that movie. Horrible movie. But these books, they really hit the sweet spot for kids to enjoy reading on their own. Gives them self-confidence. In this book, The Getaway, the Heffley family is taking a paradise vacation just in time for the holidays. And I bet it is nothing short of chaotic, with insects, teen angst, and family love at the end of it. It's Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Book 12. This is the 9,000-pound gorilla, out this week, and it's a book. You know, if you're down with Wimpy Kid, you know the way it works. There are illustrations on most every page in a notebook format. It's a classic format for this property, and Book 12 is out this week. Now, this graphic novel really threw us for a loop because we didn't read the first one. Didn't know anything about it. So when we got it in the mail, we were like, hey, we'll give it a shot. And we wrote a full, proper review of it last week because it really blew us away. It's Red's Planet, Friends and Foes. This is the second book in this series from Eddie Pittman. And it's beautiful. I feel kind of dopey calling it beautiful. It really is. I mean, when you look at some of the art, you can distinguish what you like and what you don't like, and some is timeless. That's what I say this is beautiful. It's a very timeless style art. And Eddie has old hooks to Disney. He's if you look at his biography on his website, redsplanet.com, he's a classic Disney illustrator who's done some work on some amazing Disney properties, Mulan, Tarzan, Fantasia 2000, Lilo and Stitch, and some others, but he was also a writer and story artist for Phineas and Ferb. Phineas and Ferb, one of the best shows ever on television. And it's neat because this and somebody else in Phineas and Ferb that we ran across that we didn't know did work with them, but we immediately loved their work. There was something about that property. That was lightning in a bottle, where that show, Phineas and Ferb, so perfectly captured everything that kids loved and laughed at, and parents could laugh at also. Just a great show without being a distinct kids show. Because if you say kids show, kids aren't going to like it because they may think it talks down to them or it's some kind of baby show. That was lightning in a bottle. This book, Red's Planet, Friends and Foes, has that same kind of mojo because it is beautiful. Again, you look at the art, it's classic illustrations. The colors in this, you don't often pay attention to colors in graphic novels, at least I don't. They're there and you acknowledge them, but rarely do they mesh so well with the characters, the way they're drawn, and the way the story evolves, as they do in Red's Planet, Friends and Foes. It's really great. And the other thing that is fabulous about this is the story adheres equally to boys and girls. You look at a graphic novel or a comic book, you can say, well, girls will like it more than boys, or boys will like it more than girls, or whatever. This is just a graphic novel that's great. And who's going to like it? Every kid over 6 and up. 7-year-olds will be able to read it independently, probably. 8-year-olds will be able to read it independently for sure. But even through middle school, they're going to like reading this book because it really has heart. The characters take on such a natural evolution. It's really great stuff. Can't say enough great things about this. Then I haven't even told you the story. Here's the story. Red is an Earthling who has crash landed on a different planet. Hopefully. And she is making her way with the aliens, meeting them, trying to figure out what's going on. So it's very much science fiction, but it's very human at the same time. Great book. Highly recommend it. It's our book of the week. I need a book of the week sounder. Do you have a... what grade would do this? I would say middle school, upper middle school through high school, who is studying history. Check out this one. Nathan Hale has been doing this for a while, and it's great. It combines history. It tells stories about history that are entertaining and real and have dire consequences, dire life and death consequences, but he manages to tell the story in such a way that it's not graphic, it's educational, but you still acknowledge that there were bad things that happened, because he tells stories about history, usually about war history, and he's done stuff in the Revolutionary War. I read a World War II story that he did once in lunch recess. He's tackled the Donner Party. His latest book, Rate of No Return, is a story that happened just after World War II, and this is a true story that I've never heard about. A true story about American soldiers who were on a top-secret mission to fly over to Japan after Pearl Harbor. But they were discovered before they could do their mission, and it's the story of what happened to them as they were shot down over Japan. Wow. How do you make this entertaining without being graphic, and still something that kids will want to read? That is the testament that Nathan Hale's talent derives from, that he can make this entertaining, approachable, without making parents scream that it's going to teach a war lesson or it's going to be blood and guts, and still maintain the heart and soul of a graphic novel. It's amazing how he does it. Rate of No Return, it's book number 7 in Nathan Hale's Hazardous Tales. Great book it is. Great graphic novel. Hey, we're also on social media. I gotta mention this, really. If you want to check out some wacky comic news, or just some news that's left of center, or random things, please follow us on Twitter, @DaddyMojo. Also, daddymojo.net on Facebook. Here is a crossover that happened before, but was so successful, so unique, they're back for round 2. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ghostbusters. This is number 2, as in the second crossover, coincidentally also issue number 2. Are we confused? Too many twos? I hope not. It combines both properties, and if you're familiar with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and their monthly comic book on IDW, there is an Adventures, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures, which is really an all-ages comic book. There's also a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic book that is slightly for older audiences, but still is not graphic by any means. This version of the Turtles is right in the sweet spot between those two. It's not as young as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles you see on television in their adventures, nor is it as old as they're portrayed in the movie, as old or skewing enjoyment-wise. In other words, if you've had an 8-year-old kid, they will love this, because they're down with the Turtles, they know the Turtles, and they may know about Ghostbusters. Maybe they've seen the movie, maybe they haven't, but they know the entity Ghostbusters, and both are cool. Who doesn't like turtles fighting crime? Who doesn't like ghosts? Plus, it's written by Eric Burnham, who does some great stuff for IDW. This comic book is not for kids, but sometimes we like to highlight things that are so unique and still so great that maybe older kids, I'll say teenage kids, would like to see, just because it's so interesting and different, and it'll fly under their radar. We're just going to expose it to them here. It's Kong on Planet of the Apes. It's from Boom Studios, and the ongoing Kong comic book is beautiful. The art in it is beautiful. The art in Kong on Planet of the Apes is similar. It's just a little more graphic, a little bloody. You get some things that younger kids are not going to want to see. However, the story is one that my 12-year-old, when I say my 12-year-old, and me as a 12-year-old, I would have loved to have seen. Because it features Kong, a massive Kong-sized ape, washes up in the world of the Planet of the Apes, just after the end of the first classic movie, Planet of the Apes from the 60s. So the apes are on the beach, they see the Statue of Liberty, and there are no humans around. I'm not going to question where they are. They're either they got killed or they're in prison, I don't know. You're just talking apes on a beach. and then they discover a Kong on a beach who is dead. So as you can see, this is not a comic book for kids in elementary school. If you're 12 and up, maybe you would like it if you like the classic cinematic properties of Planet of the Apes, or you really want to check out something that's really beautifully drawn, or you're an ongoing fan of Kong the comic book. I wanted to put it out there because I know if I were a 12-year-old, I would have sought this out and loved it, and my parents probably would have been okay with it based upon what I was reading. Check it out for yourself. Age appropriateness, you decide. Kong on Planet of the Apes.
Thanks for listening to Daddy Mojo. Be sure to tune in next time. For more information on any of the things we talked about today, just check out the website, daddymojo.net, or hit us up at Daddy Mojo on social media.